3 years ago, I fell in the bathroom. 2 in the morning, maybe closer to 3. I don't know exactly. What I know is the tile was cold. What I know is I lay there for almost 4 hours before I could get myself up. My phone was on the nightstand. Might as well have been on the moon. I counted the tiles on the ceiling while I waited. 47. I had nothing else to do. The thing that scared me wasn't the pain. My hip hurt, yes, but I've had worse. The thing that scared me was the quiet. I called out a few times, early on. Not loud, I knew no one would hear. But I did it anyway, the way you knock on wood or cross your fingers. Just in case someone was listening. No one was. I'm 84 now. I've lived alone in this house for 9 years. Ever since Harold passed. We were married for 42 years. 42 years of someone sleeping next to you, eating across from you, asking how your day was, even when he didn't really want to know. Then one morning you wake and he's gone, and the house is exactly the same, but completely different. People told me I'd adjust. My daughter said it, my sister said it, the women at church said it. Give it time, Eleanor. You'll find your rhythm, you'll learn to enjoy the peace. They weren't wrong. Not exactly. But they left out the parts that matter. The parts you don't understand until you're the one lying on the bathroom floor at 2 in the morning, wondering if this is it. If this is how they'll find you. And how long it might take before anyone thinks to check. I was a nurse for 37 years. Retired at 62. I thought I understood what getting old looked like. I'd seen it enough times. The slow decline, the body turning against itself, the family members crying in hallways. I thought because I'd witnessed it, I was prepared for it. I wasn't prepared for any of this. Let me tell you about my neighbor Dorothy. She lived 2 houses down, the yellow one with the overgrown azaleas. Lived alone for 11 years after her husband died. I'd see her sometimes, getting her mail, walking to her car. We'd wave. Sometimes we'd talk for a minute or two if we happened to be outside at the same time. How are you? Fine. How are you? Fine. That kind of talk. One January. I realized I hadn't seen her in a while. Her mail was piling up. I thought maybe she'd gone to visit her son in Michigan. She talked about him sometimes, but something didn't feel right. I called the police for a wellness check. They found her on the kitchen floor. She'd been there for 5 days. 5 days, and I lived 2 houses away. I saw her mailbox overflowing and thought, oh, she must be traveling. It didn't occur to me until almost a week had passed that something might be wrong. That's how invisible you become when you live alone. That's how easy it is to disappear. After Dorothy, I installed one of those key lock boxes outside my front door. Gave the code to my daughter and to the Hendersons next door. I started carrying my phone everywhere. Bathroom, garden, everywhere. I even take it with me when I go down to the basement to do laundry, which is stupid because there's no signal down there, but I take it anyway. These precautions help. I tell myself they help. But 3 in the morning, when I wake up, and the house is dark and quiet, I still think about Dorothy. I think about how she must have called out too. I think about how cold it must have been on that kitchen floor. January in Ohio. The furnace was probably still running, but the floor would have been cold. I think about what she must have thought about, lying there. Her son is in Michigan. The azaleas she never got around to trimming. I went to her funeral. Small service, maybe 15 people. Her son gave a short speech. He said she was independent. She valued her privacy. She wanted to stay in her own home. He said it like it was a good thing, like she got what she wanted. I sat in the back pew and thought about those 5 days. I thought about independence and privacy and what they actually mean when you're 83 and lying on your kitchen floor with nobody coming. Some things you can prepare for. Some things you just live with, and some things you tell yourself you've accepted. But really, you're just trying not to think about them too much. Harold used to say I was the independent one in our marriage. He was the talker, the socializer. He'd chat with anyone, the mailman, the checkout girl, strangers in line at the hardware store. I preferred quiet. Give me a book and a cup of tea, and I'm happy. I used to joke that I married him so I'd have someone to handle the small talk for me. After he died, I thought the quiet would be a relief. No more television blaring, no more sports commentary from the other room, no more Harold asking what's for dinner when I was clearly in the middle of cooking dinner. Just peace, just me. The first few months were nice. I read more than I had in years. I ate when I wanted, slept when I wanted. I could leave dishes in the sink overnight without anyone commenting. Small freedoms. The kind you don't notice until they're gone, then don't appreciate until they're back. But somewhere around month 4 or 5, the quiet started to change. It got heavier, thicker. I'd sit in the living room in the evening, and the silence would press against my ears like water. I'd turn on the television just to hear voices, even though I wasn't watching. I'd leave the radio on in the kitchen all day, not because I wanted to listen, because I couldn't stand the nothing. One night, I was making dinner, and I caught myself narrating out loud. Now I'm chopping the onion. Now I'm turning on the burner. I stopped mid-sentence, stood there with the knife in my hand, realizing what I was doing. I was so hungry for sound, for words, that I'd started providing them myself. That's when I got Walter. Gray Tabby, 7 years old when I adopted him from the shelter. The woman there said he was quiet, low maintenance. Good for seniors. I almost laughed at that. Good for seniors. Like I was buying a recliner. But she was right. Walter doesn't ask for much. Food, water, a clean litter box, and a lap to sit on in the evenings. He doesn't talk, obviously, but he's there. When I come home from the grocery store, he's waiting by the door. When I wake up at night, I can hear him breathing somewhere in the dark. That sounds like nothing. It's nothing. Still, a cat is not a husband. A cat is not a friend. A cat is not someone who knew you when you were 30, remembers the dress you wore to your daughter's wedding, and can laugh with you about the time Harold got lost driving to Niagara Falls and refused to admit it for 3 hours. Harold drove for 3 hours in the wrong direction. I kept saying, just stop and ask someone. He kept saying, I know where I'm going. Men. Walter is a warm body. I'm grateful for him. But there are days when the loneliness is so heavy that even having him there doesn't help. There are days when I realize I haven't spoken to another human being in 3, 4, or 5 days. And I start to wonder if I'm still real, if I'm still here, if anyone would notice if I wasn't. There was a period, maybe 8 months after Harold died, when I stopped answering the phone. I don't know why exactly. It just felt like too much effort. The phone would ring, and I'd look at it and think, I can't. I just can't. I'll call them back later. And then, I wouldn't. My daughter drove down from Colorado because I hadn't returned her calls in 2 weeks. She found me in my bathrobe at 2 in the afternoon, dishes piled in the sink, wine mail stacked on the counter unopened. She was scared. I could see it in her face. Mom, she said. Mom, what's happening? I didn't have an answer. I didn't know what was happening. I was just tired. Tired in a way that sleep doesn't fix. Tired of the empty house and the silent rooms and the way every day felt exactly like the one before. She stayed for a week, made me shower, made me eat, made me go outside. By the time she left, I was better, functional again. But I've never forgotten how easy it was to slip. How quickly the days can blur into nothing when there's no one watching, no one expecting you to show up. My daughter calls every Sunday. We talk for 20 minutes, sometimes 30. She tells me about her job, her kids, and what they're doing in school. I tell her I'm fine. The weather's been nice. I'm keeping busy. I don't tell her about the silence. I don't tell her about the days that blur together until I can't remember if today is Tuesday or Thursday. I don't tell her that sometimes I set an extra place at the table by accident, then stare at it for a long time before I put the plate away. She has her own life, her own worries. She doesn't need mine. The house is too big now. 4 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, a basement, a yard. When the kids were growing up, it felt barely big enough. Now it's just me, and I can go days without setting foot in certain rooms. The guest bedroom, the kids' old rooms, I keep the doors closed. It's easier than looking at all that empty space. But a house doesn't care if you use it. It keeps demanding things. The gutters need cleaning. The porch railing is loose. There's a leak somewhere. I can hear it when it rains, but I can't find where it is. The list of things that need fixing gets longer every month. I write them down on a pad in the kitchen, and the pad fills up, and I start a new one, and the old one sits there reminding me of everything I haven't done. When Harold was alive, we divided the work. He handled the outside, I handled the inside. It was manageable. Now it's all mine, and my body isn't what it was. My back hurts if I stand too long. My knees hurt if I climb stairs too much. I get tired in the middle of the afternoon and have to sit down. The first summer after Harold died, I tried to keep the garden going. He loved that garden. Tomatoes, peppers, beans, zucchini. I thought if I could just maintain it, it would be like keeping a piece of him alive. By August, I was exhausted. I'd go out in the morning, work for an hour, and be useless the rest of the day. The weeds started winning. The tomatoes rotted on the vine because I couldn't keep up with picking them. One afternoon, I sat down on the porch step and cried. Not because of the garden, because of everything the garden represented. Everything I couldn't do anymore, everything I'd lost. Now I hire a boy from down the street to mow the lawn. I call a handyman for the things I can't reach. It costs money I'd rather not spend, but the alternative is letting the house fall apart around me. Or moving. My daughter keeps suggesting that. A nice apartment, Mom. Something smaller, less to worry about. Closer to us. I know she means well, but this is my home. This is where I raised my children. This is where Harold and I built 42 years of life together. His chair is still in the living room. I haven't been able to move it. It's old, the fabric is worn, and no one sits in it anymore. But when I look at that chair, I see him, reading the newspaper on Sunday mornings, falling asleep during the evening news. 42 years. How do you put that on the curb? Tell me, how do you take 4 decades and put them in a donation box? My daughter doesn't understand. She's practical, like her father. She sees an old chair taking up space. I see everything I don't have anymore. I've been talking for a while now. I realize I keep circling around things instead of saying them straight. That's what happens when you spend too much time alone. Your thoughts don't go in lines anymore. They go in loops. But if you're still here, if something in this is landing for you, I want you to stay a little longer. There's more I haven't said yet. Things I've never told anyone. Things I barely admit to myself. Time does something strange when you live alone. I don't mean it slows down or speeds up. I mean, it stops making sense. When Harold was alive, time had shape. He woke up at 6:30, breakfast at 7, he left for his errands by 9, was home by noon. Dinner at 6, news at 7, bed by 10. His schedule was my schedule. His rhythms were my rhythms. Even when I found them annoying, at least I knew what day it was. Now I lose track. I'll wake up convinced it's Saturday, only to find it's Monday. I'll think I just ate lunch, and it was 4 hours ago. Sometimes I look at the calendar, and I don't know how we got to April already. Wasn't it just February? Wasn't it just Christmas? Whole months slip away, and I can't tell you what I did in them. I must have done something, but I can't remember. So I create structure. Coffee at 7, walk at 8, groceries on Monday, laundry on Wednesday, call my daughter on Sunday. These routines are the scaffolding that holds my days together. Without them, I think I'd dissolve. I think the time would swallow me whole. The walks are hard some mornings. My joints are stiff. My lungs don't work like they used to. It would be easy to skip a day, then another day, then a week. I know where that leads. I've seen it in other women. You stop moving and your body forgets how to move. You sit in your chair day after day, and one morning you try to stand up, and you can't. I watched it happen to my friend Miriam. 81 years old, sharp as a tack, but she stopped walking after her surgery, and she never started again. Last time I visited her, she couldn't get from the bed to the bathroom without help. She looked at me and said, "Eleanor, don't let this happen to you. Promise me." So I walk, even when it hurts, even when I don't want to, even when the weather's bad, and every part of me wants to stay inside where it's warm. I walk to the end of the street and back. Some days that's all I can manage. Other days I go further. The Hendersons' house, the little park around the block. It's not much, but it's something. It's me refusing to give up. Cooking is another thing. When Harold died, I stopped making real meals. What was the point? All that work for one person? I ate frozen dinners, toast, soup from a can, things that required nothing from me. But after a while, I started feeling wrong, tired all the time, weak. My doctor said I wasn't eating enough. She said I needed real food. Do you know how hard it is to cook for one? Everything comes in the wrong amounts. You buy a head of lettuce, and half of it goes bad before you can finish it. You make a pot of soup and eat the same thing for 6 days until you can't stand the sight of it. And there's no one to appreciate it. No one to say this is good, Eleanor. No one to sit across from you while you eat. Just you, alone at the table, with the radio playing something you're not really listening to. I do it anyway, most nights. Not because I enjoy it, because I refuse to let myself disappear. Because making a meal, sitting down to eat it properly, those are the things that remind me I'm still a person. I'm still here, I still matter, even if no one's watching. But some nights, I don't have the energy. Some nights I eat crackers and cheese over the sink and go to bed early because there's nothing else to do and no one who would know the difference. People ask me if I'm lonely. My daughter asks. The women at church ask. How are you doing, Eleanor? Are you lonely? I tell them I'm fine. I have Walter. I have my routines. I keep busy. But the truth is, loneliness isn't one thing. It's not a feeling you have or don't have. It's a spectrum, a weather system. Some days it's just a light mist, barely there. Other days it's a storm that pins you to the couch and won't let you move. The hardest days are the ones when I want to tell someone something, and there's no one to tell. Something I saw on television. Something I remembered. A joke that would have made Harold laugh. I open my mouth to speak, and then I remember. And the remembering is its own kind of pain. A small one, but it happens 20 times a day, 100 times a day. These little stabs of absence. You'd think after 9 years I'd be used to it. You don't get used to it. You just learn to live around it the way you learn to live with a bad knee or a trick shoulder. It's always there. You just stop expecting it to be different. My friend Ruth, I used to have lunch every Thursday. For years, every Thursday, at the same restaurant, in the same booth. After her husband died, she moved to Arizona to be near her daughter. We said we'd stay in touch. We said we'd call all the time. We talked maybe 3 times that first year, then twice the year after. Now I get a card at Christmas. That's it. 30 years of friendship, and now it's a card at Christmas. It's not her fault. It's not anyone's fault. That's just what happens. People move, people get busy, people die, and your world gets smaller and smaller until one day you look up and realize most of the people who knew you, really knew you, are gone. I'm not saying this for sympathy. I'm saying it because no one told me. No one said, Eleanor, when you get old, you're going to lose most of your people. Not all at once, slowly over the years. And by the time you notice how small your world has gotten, it's too late to do much about it. Let me tell you something I've never said out loud before. Sometimes I wonder why I'm still here. Not in a dark way. I don't mean that. I mean practically. What am I contributing? Who am I helping? I raised my children. They're grown. I did my job. I'm retired. The world would keep turning without me. It wouldn't even notice the difference. I think this is why so many people my age fade away. It's not just the body giving out. It's the sense that you no longer have a purpose, that you're just taking up space, waiting for the end. I fight that feeling. Some days I win. Some days I don't. The victories are small, I call my daughter, and she sounds happy to hear from me. The Hendersons wave from their driveway and stop to chat for a few minutes. Walter curls up on my lap while I watch my programs. A good meal, a good night's sleep, a walk where my knees don't hurt too much. These things matter. I've learned that they matter, not in any grand way, not in any way that anyone else would notice, but they're the difference between a day that feels worth living and a day that feels like you're just running out the clock. If any of this sounds familiar to you, if you're living this yourself, or watching someone you love live it, I want you to know you're not alone. I know that sounds hollow, coming from someone talking into a camera in an empty house. But it's true. There are millions of us out here, navigating this same quiet, fighting these same battles. We just don't talk about it. We just smile, say we're fine, close the door, and sit in the silence. Maybe that needs to change. I don't know. What I know is this. I'm 84 years old. Most of my life is behind me now. How? The time ahead is short, getting shorter. And I've made a kind of peace with that. Not because I'm ready to die. I'm not. I want to see my grandchildren graduate. I want one more good summer, maybe two. I want to finish the book I'm reading, even though I keep forgetting where I left off. But I've stopped waiting for things to get easier. They won't. I've stopped hoping the loneliness will lift. It won't. I've stopped believing that someday I'll feel prepared for this. You don't prepare. You just do it. Day after day, whether you want to or not. The night I fell in the bathroom, after I finally managed to get up, I sat on the edge of the tub for a long time. My hip was throbbing. My hands were shaking. And I looked around that bathroom, the bathroom I've used for 31 years, and it looked completely foreign to me, like I was seeing it for the first time. The towels Harold picked out, the soap dish my mother gave me, the tiles I counted while I was lying on the floor, waiting to find out if this was how it ended. I thought, is this my life now? Lying on cold floors in the dark, hoping someone thinks to check on me before it's too late. And then I thought, what else is there? What's the alternative? You get up, you keep going. You install the key lockbox, carry the phone, and walk to the end of the street, even when it hurts. You make dinner even when no one else is eating. You talk to the cat because at least he's listening. You take the small victories where you find them and try not to think too hard about everything else. That's what living alone when you're old looks like. Not the peaceful retirement they show in the commercials. Not the freedom everyone talks about. Just this. The daily work of staying alive. The daily work of remembering that you matter, even when it's hard to believe. My daughter called last Sunday and asked what I'd been up to. I said, oh, nothing much. The usual. But the usual is everything. The usual is me. Still here, still fighting. The usual is 47 tiles on the ceiling and a cat named Walter and a chair in the living room that I can't bring myself to move. The usual is enough some days. Just barely. But enough. Harold's chair is still there. I look at it every morning when I come downstairs, every evening when I turn off the lights. I know I should do something about it. My daughter's right. It's old. The fabric is worn. It's just taking up space. But I can't. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Last month I tried. I called one of those donation places, scheduled a pickup. The morning they were supposed to come, I sat in that chair for an hour. Just sat there, feeling the armrests where Harold's hands had worn grooves in the fabric, smelling whatever was left of him in the cushions, probably nothing anymore, but I imagined I could smell something. When the truck pulled up, I went outside and told them I'd changed my mind. The driver looked annoyed. I didn't care. I went back inside and sat in the chair again and cried. My daughter called that evening. She asked how I was. I said fine, the usual. I didn't tell her about the truck. I didn't tell her about the chair. I didn't tell her that sometimes the only thing that feels real anymore is sitting in that chair and pretending Harold just stepped out of the room and will be back any minute. Maybe that's crazy. Maybe that's what grief does to you. I don't know. I've stopped trying to figure it out. And maybe that's okay. Maybe some things you don't have to resolve. Maybe some things you just carry with you until you can't carry them anymore, and then someone else decides what to do with them. My daughter will probably donate that chair the week after I'm gone. That's fine. It won't matter to me then. It matters now. That's enough. The sun is setting now. Walter is asleep on the couch. In an hour, I'll make dinner. Tomorrow, I'll take my walk. Sunday, I'll call my daughter and tell her I'm fine. This is my life. It's smaller than it used to be. Quieter, harder in ways I didn't expect. But I'm still here. That night on the bathroom floor, I didn't know if I would be. But I am. For now, that has to be enough.